Guys, we start in less than 1 minute. Hi, everyone. Here's to a warm welcome to all of you for joining the SE Camps. Our first standing committee on which we're going to talk today is SCORA. As you see, SCORA War on your screen. So this is what we are going to learn today. With us are Honorable SCORA, what you say, they're angels and they're the masters of SCORA, or they're the most knowledgeable person or SCORA, or like I can say a lot of words for their praise, but yeah, we have Carlos Acosta with us, who was a former SCORA director, and he also served IFMSA International as president. As you must have read his intro before on the posters, it said that he loves reading and writing. Then we have Laura Lalucat. She's from Spain, Catalonia, and she is the current SCORA director. She is a very lively and a humble person. So, like, both of them are very lively and humble person who would be telling you about what SCORA is, why you should choose SCORA, what should you do in SCORA, and all about it in today's webinar. And since they're very friendly and jolly and warming, you can ask questions at the end of this webinar. Now we head to a small video that was an effort from our team member. We see the video and what's going on around in the world on the sexual reproduction and AIDS, and then we will start the webinar. We have coordinators of this activity, Fatma Rahman and Muhammad Ibrahim. Muhammad Ibrahim will be playing the video now. Ibrahim, can you please play the video?
Maha, in order to play the video, I'll need to screen share, and Lara is screen sharing. So,
Okay. Lalu, can you please? Okay, you have it.
can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, can you guys see
That's
it
it, yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear it?
No. Let me check it.
Can you guys hear it now? Maha, for some there's a slight technical error. Can you play the video, please?
Yes, I can. Just put it down and I'll play it. Okay, while we're struggling with the technical errors, Carlos and Lalu, can you please start presenting? Meanwhile, we check out how to work on that.
Sure. Just give me a second so I share my screen as well.
Sure.
So I guess you're seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so whenever Carlos is ready, the floor is yours.
Sure, just give me a second.
Just give me a second as well, because I think my camera is not on.
Yeah, mine either. Wait. I think you can
So at
see.
least you got to see us. So I'm sharing again.
Okay.
Okay, now it should be set.
Great. Thank you, Lal. All right. So welcome everyone to this session on SCORA What. So my name is Carlos, as I was introduced before. I haven't been in an IFMSA space in a while, so I'm very happy to be here. And I'm very happy also to be accompanied by Lalu. We have worked before in the past, some years ago, but it is very nice to be again in one of these spaces. And yeah, nor less to introduce you to a little bit about what SCORA is all about. So I'm going to present a little bit the things that are old, like me, and haven't changed. And Lalu will definitely take the fireworks into everything that's going on right now with SCORA. So introducing a little bit about myself and what we are going to do. So in this session, we are going to do an introduction to SCORA, go over the mission and vision of the Standing Committee, a little bit of the history and fun facts about SCORA. We're going to go over focus areas, capacity building, like trainings and SCORA exchange, external opportunities, how to get started with SCORA in your local environment or national environment, and then communication channels, and finally a session with questions and answers. So yeah, without further ado, we can start. So SCORA, our greatest standing committee. So when we talk about a vision, we talk about something that it is a little bit broad and not necessarily very specific. It's how we envision the change that we want to do in the world. And in SCORA, we have a very well-defined vision, which is a world in which every individual is empowered to exercise sexual and reproductive health rights equally, free from stigma and discrimination. And I like to draw attention to the fact that we are not only talking about like sexual and reproductive health, but also how the environment or the rest of the people interact with that sexual and reproductive health. And that is, that interaction needs to be free from stigma and free from discrimination. And I definitely think that is something that we stress a lot about, like within the Standing Committee, and we alumni do as well. So yeah, if you want to pass to the next slide. Okay, so our mission is a little bit more focal. Let's say it's a little bit more concrete in what we want to do in the world. So within SCORA, we would like to have like a space and skills and tools that all of the members can grab or use to advocate for sexual and reproductive health rights. We do, as you know, the IFMSA works in a federative way, so that type of activity comes within the respective communities and in a cultural sensitive fashion. So it is important that you know that this mission or these activities are tailored to your needs. And this is accomplished through building the skills and the knowledge of our members. We provide trainings, we exchange ideas and projects, we draft policies, and we work with external partners to make this change happen. And yes, the slides are great, and this is all Lalu's making, so just saying, I just want to get that clear that all of these is very new, and I also think it's absolutely gorgeous. You can pass to the next slide. Okay, so sexual and reproductive health is very broad, and well, it is for a reason, because sexual and reproductive health functions in diverse areas of our lives and diverse areas of the world that we live in. But in SCORA, very early when we designed the standing committee as a federation, we did divide it a little bit of the work into focus areas that we wanted to pinpoint on. So the focus areas are 5. So right now we have CSE, or Comprehensive Sexuality Education, where we focus a lot on basically all the educational material that we receive around sexual and reproductive health. I believe, at least in my time, the focus was adolescents and children within this specific focus area, but we also acknowledge that elderly and other populations have these nuances within CSE. Next, we have sexuality and gender identity, which, fun fact, it is the latest addition to the focus areas. And here we discuss everything about, well, sexuality, gender identity, what does that mean, how it interacts with other areas in our field of work. Well, we have, of course, HIV, AIDS, and other STIs, which, by the way, right now we are having a huge conference on AIDS, which the SCORA team always participates in. And since the engagement of HIV and AIDS in the late 80s to the early 90s, SCORA has been present in the response, the IFMSA has been present in SCORA specifically through the 90s in the global response of HIV and AIDS. We were also involved within the 1990 strategy that is out there that I think you can search within the SCORA libraries and all the activities about that. Yeah, and then we have maternal health and access to safe abortion, where we focus about, well, maternal and women's health, as well as access to safe abortion all over the world, and how reproductive, specifically medicine, enters in contact with women's rights. And last but not least, we talk a lot about gender-based violence and how this affects not only women, but gender-based violence as a whole. All over the world and across the 5 regions. So we can go next. Okay, I think the last one, yes. So this is my favorite part because I'm the old guy within the call, so I'll definitely give you a little bit of the sweet gossip that surrounds SCORA in the past. So just a little bit of history for all of you. So SCORA is actually the newest of the standing committees within the IFMSA. It was created in 1992. And the reason why it was created is because medical students worldwide knew and identified that we needed to discuss HIV/AIDS in that time more focusedly, especially because the United Nations and the WHO also design specific efforts for this. Some of them you might know, like the UNAIDS agency. Some of others you might not know, as for example the Latin American reports for it. But the point is, around this time, many specific activities around HIV prevention and reproductive health we're a little bit, well, starting to get in. We're starting to get in the discussion of governments, the discussion of NGOs and civil society as a whole. So we have changed a lot of times our name, because it is hard to determine what exactly sexual and reproductive health is. So just as an example, our initial name, when we had that, like, it was SCOAS, specifically dedicated to AIDS. And in 1998, we changed it to SCORA, as we know it today. However, within SCORA, for example, at that time in 1998, we only recognized reproductive health and not sexual health. So it was only reproductive rights without the sexual rights. Those came later. So just as another fun fact, SCOAS and SCORA in general already was created and designed with focus areas. And this was very handy when we transitioned as a federation to the program division, or to the program scheme, because we already had those focuses that we wanted to work on, and those focus areas became into the SCORA programs, or the SCORA related programs that we have today. Well, the European region holds the largest amount of SCORA directors and LRAs. The 23 total SCORA directors have come from Europe so far. Another fun fact is that I was the first Latin American to occupy the SCORA director spot within the federation. And also, I want to also mention that Catalonia specifically has a very impactful, from regional assistants to directors to LRAs. Catalonia has definitely a high presence, so that is also a fun fact within the history of SCORA, together with Sweden. So those are the two countries that have had a lot of impact recently. Well, as I mentioned, SCORA focus areas were the first ones to be implemented into programs in the August meeting 15 in Macedonia, which was my first August meeting, my first ever IFMSA General Assembly. And then again, having those focus areas was very useful at the time to transition very easily into programs. And well, sexuality and gender identity and maternal health were the last focus areas that we transitioned to programs. And within my term, at least, I remember working along my regional assistants, like Pepe Ferrer, who is also from Catalonia, just saying, and Jenna Weber, for example, to create one capacity building space per focus area. So I don't know if it has changed, but at least at that time, the heat and the beast were not yet, and I've seen now that there's a lot of people implementing these trainings. So we are very lucky to have one capacity building space or one training per focus area. So if within our committee you would like to emphasize your skills or your knowledge in any of the focus areas, there is a training for you, and Lalu will definitely have all the information about that. So without further ado, this is all the history and the old stuff, and now I'd like to welcome Lalu to the space with all the new things that SCORA is developing.
Thank you so much, Carlos. And as Carlos was walking you through history and some fun facts and some gossip as well, I'm gonna start with a fun fact as well, which is how Carlos and I met. So I think we met in 2017. And I was thinking about it, I think it was in Barcelona, but then it was in the March meeting in 2017 that I was attending my first General Assembly sessions. And if there is a memory that I recall from the first day of those sessions, is that we needed an energizer in SCORA sessions. And Carlos was facilitating, and he asked, who knows this specific energizer? And I don't know, over 30 people raised their hands, but he picked me to facilitate the energizer in front of everyone, actually on the top of a table. And I was super, super shy back then. So yeah, thank you for that. And I'm very happy to be sharing the webinar with him today, because most of the time of the things that he's been mentioning are things that I got as handover and I've been trying to build up on. So in SCORA, we work within a 3-year strategy. So let's say that I got to evaluate those 3 years process and try to build up on that. So it's really nice that we have the historical perspective, and even if he says he's old, he's not old. But yeah, so what I'm gonna build up on is on what he was actually mentioning, which is that in order to achieve our vision, we have different capacity building workshops, and it was in his term that they got to build one per focus area. So I'm taking you first back to the focus area so you can take a look again. So we actually have a 3 days workshop per each focus area. I'm not gonna bombard you with more information, but all of them have like acronyms and very cool names. So for example, the one for HIV education and advocacy training is the HEAT. And we just released a manual for that training that can also be implemented in a national level and can also be break out in smaller parts. Other things that we've been doing regarding that is that, okay, that's gonna be a spoiler, but I'm gonna say it anyways because you're all here. Soon we are releasing a 1-day BEAST training. So that's training on sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression and sex characteristics. So what we did was to make it more available, we think, for national member organizations. So we are trying to break it into smaller parts that can be facilitated in local settings and national settings. So that's more or less how we took it forward from those big 3 days workshops. But those 3 days workshops are still existing. And yeah, so as Carlos was saying, we have one per focus area. So here you have some pictures because I think this way you get to understand a bit more, because it's very difficult to explain how amazing it is. But basically you gather for 5 days, so it's 3 working days with students from all over the world most of the times, and you just get to build up those skills that we were talking about that you need to contribute to bring forward the SCORA mission and achieve, hopefully soon, the SCORA vision. So as you see, there's only young people here because the trainers are IFMSA trainers. So they are students as you are. I've seen some people in the webinar joining that was in the IPAS training. So it would be nice if you all also share like how that goes in the chat. I would invite you to do that. But most of the activities, it's very dynamic, very interactive. You get to learn from perspectives from different countries, and you get to work together on the topic of a training. So it's definitely something that is very nice whenever you get to be more involved into IFMSA and you just want to learn more about how this big platform that has nearly 140 countries on board can bring you different perspectives and a lot of knowledge. So most of the times the knowledge is already in the room and it's mostly about sharing, and most of the times you learn about things that are not even written in books. So definitely that's one of the most amazing opportunities that we have. But in addition to that, we have even bigger meetings. So when Carlos made me dance on the top of a table, it was in a meeting like this one, which was a General Assembly. So the General Assemblies are the meetings that bring together the Federation twice a year. So we have one in March and one in August. Unfortunately, this year we are having the August meeting in a virtual way because of the whole Corona situation. But still, it's also one of the opportunities that IFMSA has, because here, as you see, you have SCORA members from I don't know, most of the times is nearly 100 participants coming from their own countries. And we just have different sessions. We also bring externals so they can just introduce us to different topics. And we also take it as a chance to get input from you and to build the way forward. So that doesn't only happen for SCORA, but for all the standing committees, you can learn about it during this camp. So here is just the representation of the red committee, but still. So what else we do? We do something pretty interesting that was also kind of consolidated during Carlos' term, I would say, which is the SCORA exchange. So as you can read here is a unilateral exchange program for IFMSA members that actually is tackling all SCORA topics. So this means that we have 2 seasons over the year. So there are members, like SCORA members in their countries, that they are willing to host international students, and they apply with a very comprehensive, most of the times, program that tackles different focus areas that we already mentioned. And you get to travel to that country and stay there for 3-4 weeks most of the times with students from all around the globe. And you get to have sometimes some of the workshops that I just mentioned. Other times you get to have clerkships or internships in hospital. You also have a social program. You also have debates. You have sessions in which you can get to know more about other country perspectives as well. And you just get to learn a lot. And what we are doing now is that we are having some sort of virtual SCORA exchange, but there are still some of the organizing committees that all of them have been doing a great job. So that are still standing and will host a bit later from what they expected. But this is also one of the greatest opportunities that you have in SCORA. And here you have a testimony. So there's a participant that said, SCORA exchange gave me the chance to meet 9 other people from different countries who not only shared the same passion for SCORA, but they also had a wonderful sense of adventure, which eventually brought us together as a family. Also, we had the best OC who made sure we had the best time ever. They definitely won over our hearts and became our brothers and sisters. So this is just one of many testimonies that we just gathered this year. And most of the times it's very difficult to explain because it's very special, but you definitely learn a lot. And it's very nice because it's built by SCORA members for SCORA members. So later on, I'm going to tell you like how to stay tuned for all those opportunities so you don't miss them. So don't worry about it at the moment. I'll make sure that you stay connected. And what I wanted to talk to you about as well is that we are not the only organization who's working on sexual and reproductive health and rights. So what we do in IFMSA as well in SCORA is that we do external work. So what we mean by this is that we branch out to other organizations and we try to collaborate to establish, for example, like specific topics that we want to work on together. We also go to what we call external meetings. So here in the upper part of the screen, you have a meeting in Geneva in the World Health Assembly. So what we do is that we go to those meetings in order to have a very specific advocacy strategy. I know we have a lot of like quite complicated words, but I hope at least some of them get sticked into your minds. And here in the right, we have the CSW in the UN, the United Nations headquarters. So we also have a delegation that went there with very specific purposes and a very specific work that they wanted to carry on, and they wanted to bring IFMSA stance on certain matters. into other organizations. But apart from going to meetings, we also have external work that has a repercussion internally. And by this, one of the best examples that we have is IPAS. So IPAS is an organization that has been working with IFMSA for over 10 years, which is actually, I would say, a lot of time. So yeah, before Carlos was there, IPAS was already collaborating with IFMSA. And what we do with them is that we work a lot on capacity building. So we have one of these 3 days workshops on women's reproductive health and rights and access to safe abortion. So we carry this initiative together. And apart from that, we are planning as well a campaign for the International Day that is happening in September. Also, I guess most of the people here, or at least some, are from Pakistan. So making her story was an activity that you had last term that had to go with IPAS as well. So that's more or less in very general terms what we do externally, but just for you to know that apart from bringing together the different national organizations, we also work with others, and this brings a lot to our work and enriches a lot the work that we are doing in SCORA. Actually, I just wanted to say that whenever you have questions, feel free to drop them. I'll make sure I take a look at the chat box. So yes, okay, if I can share my experience about exchanges. I'm gonna take it for a bit later on, but sure. So just feel free to drop the questions in here. But I'm just gonna keep going. So apart from the external work, we really wanted to talk to you about how to get started. And I think one of the best ways is also sharing how I got started into SCORA and how I got to into all of this, because sometimes it's just not easy to realize like how exactly the things go and how to get more involved. So we wanted to take you through that part specifically. So about my story, I got started into SCORA actually during my first year of medical school. So most of the times you get an introduction to the different associations or clubs that you have in your faculty. So we have this in the first day, and it just grabbed my attention a lot. But my attention was not specifically focused into SCORA, but over the overall association. So I just went to one of the meetings. So how we do it in my faculty, for example, is that we have lunch together. So I was like, okay, I'm very interested. So why don't I go? And then the day that was happening, I was walking there and I was texting a friend and I was like, I'm going to this meeting, but I actually don't know anyone. I don't know how it's gonna go. Maybe I shouldn't have went there. So I was super hesitant, but of course I was heading there. So I went and everyone was super welcoming. And I just got to understand how everything works and how more or less everything had been going so far for my local committee. And for example, this long story that we are telling you now, for me, I got to learn all of that through the LoRa, which is the local officer for SCORA in my school. So we just, instead of doing it online, I got to learn all of that just having a coffee in my faculty. But most of the times, everyone starts by local projects or activities that are already happening. And it was a bit after that, for example, I got to lead my own activities because no one was doing anything for World AIDS Day, for example. And I was like, okay, so maybe I had this idea and this idea. And you just get to know more or less how it works as an organization. So if, for example, I'm from Pakistan, so once I get to know the local members from my faculty from IFMSA-Pakistan, they can guide me through that process. And little by little, you get to understand how everything goes more at a broader level or regional or international level. And as I mentioned, the workshops that we have are also like super useful to get the bigger picture of what we are doing into IFMSA. And nevertheless, the general assemblies in which you just get amazed by having people from all over the globe in the same place gathering for 7 days to talk about SCORA topics, for example, or like global health issues. So if you have questions regarding that, I think it's one of the points that we can help you out the most with, because for the rest, you will have the presentation and you can check the workshops and you can check links and so on. But if you have questions about how to start up activities and how to move forward with that, just feel free to ask us. I also wanted to say that we've been SCORA directors, but we never worked alone. We always had a team, which we call the international team. And that's actually a team out of 10 people that has also the person who works on the external work that I was mentioning, who's the liaison officer. And then in this international team, we have one person responsible of every IFMSA region. So for example, for Africa, we have the regional assistant for Africa. We have the regional assistant for Asia Pacific, and the same for the 5 regions. And then we normally have a general assistant or development assistants that work on more general topics. And apart from that, they are always there to help you, but there's an additional group of people who are the program coordinators. So the program coordinators are people that work mostly on how to support you to develop your activities. So they are very easy to reach, and they work very close with members and activity coordinators. And in our case for SCORA, we have 4 people doing that. So we had in the past one per focus area, but now comprehensive sexuality education and sexual orientation and gender identity topics were merged. So we have 4 people in charge of that. And I'm gonna leave you their contacts as well, because they are super helpful when it comes to starting up your own initiatives in addition to the international team. And this is actually my last slide, which is how to stay tuned and how you make sure you can go back to all this information that we've been throwing for the past 45 minutes. So SCORA is mainly in almost all communication channels, in the way that we have an email server, which means that all the news are sent into an email that you just need to subscribe. So basically, if you send a blank email, you don't need to write anything into ifmsa-scora@yahoogroups.com. You get subscribed into it, and here's where we send everything, like every single opportunity, every toolkit, every resource or campaign that we work on. Then we also have a Facebook group, so you just need to go into Facebook and put IFMSA SCORA and you will find it. And linked to this group, you will find the SCORA Exchange group. So make sure you follow both, because you don't want to miss SCORA Exchange's goals. And then what else do we have? Yeah, we have SCORA-D at ifmsa.org. So that's the email that you can always go back whenever you're not finding something or you're unsure about something. So right now, I'm the person behind the email. Some years ago, it was Carlos. So with this, I just want to tell you that you don't need to be super formal, or that you don't need to be like very worried about what you're writing that email, because there's no silly question. So I'll be more than happy to hand over like any sort of question that you have and just redirect you whenever it's needed. And Carlos was also mentioning the SCORA library and all the resources. So we have something called the SCORA database. So whenever you get the presentation, but also in the Facebook group, it is linked. We have this big drive folder in which we put all resources that we have. We put every manual, every toolkit that we produce. So it's very useful to just get full insight on what's going on into SCORA as well, and everything gets stored in there. So I see we have some questions, and I'm more than happy to answer any of them. So we were asked about SCORA Exchange. Carlos, do you want to add anything about that?
Well, actually, in my case, I never was able to go to an exchange specifically. As you were mentioning, Lalu, like, well, during my term, Pepe was the one who kind of like leaded a little bit of the necessity of bringing SCORA exchanges together. And we did have like a similar process to the one you showed, like gathering all of those experiences and comments on what SCORA exchange was meaning for the people at the moment. And I can just say that although I have never been to one, I can see the impact that a SCORA exchange has. And I am sure that right now, like, so many people are working to always, every year, give you a meaningful exchange that is able to change your perspectives about some of the issues that we face right now. And especially in COVID, I do think that now more than ever, we need these types of spaces.
Yeah, thank you. And from my side, I never attended as participant, but I was part, while I was the head of the organizing committee, so I hosted 10 amazing participants in Catalonia.
I do remember that one.
Yeah, so I did host, and it was really actually amazing for two reasons. One, I got to spend a lot of time with participants from all over the globe. We got to share like many stories. We had a lot of sessions to just get to know about specific topics that were very concrete from specific countries, or for example, that we were not that exposed to as such FGM. So we learned a lot about it. And on the other side, being in the organizing committee part, I got to facilitate a lot of sessions, and I got to interact with many stakeholders from my community and from Catalonia as a whole. So I got to kind of branch and network with other organizations, and that was also like super nice. And that was actually happening before even people came to Barcelona. So it was super enriching at those two levels. And that was in 2018, and we still have a WhatsApp group, and we still chat sometimes. We try to have calls, but we never manage because everyone is always busy and very active into SCORA still. So it's really nice to see how that's like still ongoing. So yeah, I learned a lot, and I built friendships I still talk to.
Yeah. If I'm not wrong, I also did a session in one of those like Catalonia exchanges about I think it was obstetric violence, if I'm not wrong.
I think that, yeah, oh, yeah, I forgot. I was head of OC one, like in 2018, but in 2016, where you facilitated actually,
Yeah.
I was in the OC, but I wasn't present at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that. Thank you for sharing
Yeah. Okay, so
That's awesome.
yeah, Maha.
It's so nice listening to all the stories. Okay, Lala, we have some of the questions. If someone asked about advocacy skills. We'll move to that later. But there is someone asking, how can someone initiate an activity, or do you have to have a specific post? So I get that the person thinks that if you have a post, only then you can have any activities. So can you please explain that how a general member can initiate anything, and what does Quora topics could be? How many topics does it cover? I guess there are a lot, because there are, when the women rights come in, you can talk a lot about it. But can you precisely tell what topics can they cater?
Sure. It's not that you need a post. You need to, it's very different from one organization to another. So what I recommend is that you reach out, as I said, to your colleagues or local members from the organization, and they can exactly walk you through how the process goes. So for some places, I don't know, maybe I don't know if that question is coming from Pakistan, but if it's coming from Pakistan, I think Pakistan
I think
people can answer better than I would. But sometimes you contact the local officer and you work on it together. So you just link it, or you just get the approval to work on it together. If you want to add on that.
Yeah, I will add on that. Basically, IFMSA-Pakistan is open to every member that has any idea or that is thinking to initiate something like that. For example, general members, even in this SE camp that we are conducting, we have general members from the local councils that you call LCs. In other ways, we use a lot of abbreviations in IFMSA, but yeah, that's how it works. So any general member who wants to get into IFMSA or start working, first you get to be a member. You contact your president, or if you're not president, you contact any EB member that gets your college involved. And then starts the process. You basically, what we at IFMSA, Lalu, if I'm wrong, please correct me. We at IFMSA do is that we channel ways for you. If you have an idea, they will channel you to some people who can support you and your idea. And then if it can go big, there's a channeling process. So it's an easier path for you to construct a thing or to work on anything you had in mind that you otherwise could have done. Because here with the slogan of IFMS is that we think locally but we act globally. So this is how we work. You have a small idea, but through the proper channeling, you construct the idea and you approach the right people. And then there comes the part of the externals that she was mentioning, that how we show what's going on in our organization to the external people, and then we have collaborations. There comes my next question, Lalu. Someone asked about the advocacy skills. So can you please link how our internal work is related to advocacy and then with the externals?
Sure. So I guess this goes into okay, two parts. What we do is that in most of the workshops that we have in SCORA, we try to include advocacy sections into it. So they basically include sessions on, for example, not only like elevator pitches and how you talk to externals and how you get to convince them about something.
Yeah.
So that's one of the skills. But apart from that, for example, something we call stakeholders mapping, which means which organizations can I collaborate with. So that's also something that we incorporate. And as well as something that I didn't point out a lot is policy documents. So that's how to come up with the stance of the federation into a topic. So we try to include those aspects in addition to how to build up your own advocacy strategy. So most of our workshops on the last day have a session in which you work on that. So that's from the very, very, very SCORA perspective. But also IFMSA has a workshop that's called Global Health Advocates that develops a lot under that. and how to just build up those skills. I don't know if Carlos wants to add anything.
I can definitely compliment because, well, right now I am at the other side of the coin. Like after you leave IFMSA, I can say by my firsthand experience that those skills that you learn within IFMSA are very well used after you leave the federation or after you leave your local committee. So, for example, right now I am a part of the Youth Coalition for Sexual and Reproductive Rights, which is one of the partners of IFMSA and directly with SCORA. So it's not like I've left SCORA work at all. I still use those skills that I learned in my SCORA years, and I still use them at UN spaces, at like my professional life as well. We also have, well, I'm currently a student at Johns Hopkins as well, so those skills are very well recognized by academic institutions. So definitely get an advantage of that. Again, as Laluel said, it is not only about like learning how to speak, learning how to poise, learning how to smile, learning how to, those things are very, very minor to the actual work that you do while advocating in these large spaces. So yeah, I definitely think that is a very good thing.
Thank you, Carlos. Carlos, I have a question for you. Most of the member engagement is, they feel like there is no need of IFMSA, or, for medical students, it's the most, of course, study is the most important part, but when they think that, okay, volunteer opportunities or opportunities like this wouldn't do them any good. But as you explained earlier, that was stating otherwise. Can you explain about that, a bit about that, that how can these knowledge benefit you as you're working already? So how can these knowledge benefit you in the working fields or later on, whatever with what you plan with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the best thing that you take out of IFMSA, besides the amazing friends, the amazing times, the memories, the Instagram pictures, is definitely all of these skills into managing and into how to, for example, develop a project, how, for example, to I don't know, like lead a team of people. And these are skills that many times are not given to us within our medical education. However, when you leave IFMSA and you enter into the market, like the job market, and seek for jobs and etc., these differential skills become assets to you, become things that will make you stand out from the rest of the crowd. I can certainly say, in my experience, they have opened like many doors, and not only I'm not only talking about like the IFMSA name in your curriculum. I'm talking of the actual like personal development that you can obtain, let's say, if you wish to. Yeah, I think that's more or less it.
Yeah, that answers my question. Participants, if you have any sort of questions, please feel free to ask. You have the speakers by yourself for this time. I have another question. Any of you would like to take? It's on. Okay, I forgot the question. But yeah, it was on the funded opportunities. For example, every standing committee and every organization gives you funded opportunities. That's the most concern of some of the people out there. So when it comes to collaborations, can you name some potential collaborations of SCORA that you have right now? And are there any potential funding opportunities for the participants who wish to have a career in SCORA?
Okay, I have to say that I would have answered this differently before COVID-19.
Yeah.
I'm being very honest, because yeah, it just changed a bit everything. But I can mention a couple of very nice funding opportunities that we had. So one I actually benefited from was a grant from UNAIDS for zero discrimination projects related to HIV and AIDS. So basically, this was just a grant that you applied to, and you just got an amount of money to work on a specific project that you stated that you wanted to work on. So that's actually a grant that you get into your local or national level that you can use. We talked about IPAS, the one I told you about, capacity building, that actually IFMSA Pakistan got as well a grant to develop the Making Her Story activity. That was also a training. Yes. So that's another one. So those are, let's say, the opportunities that you can actually implement into your member organizations, as well as something else is that whenever you are part of the international team, you might, it depends on the budget, but you can get some aid to attend meetings, for example. IFMSA also has that fund that you can apply to attend general assemblies. What else? There's also the memo grant, which is a grant for an activity. So that's also something that can be implemented. And some of the times, for example, UNESCO funded a delegate for one of the conferences. So it really depends on the specific moment that we are in, that we can get some opportunities.
Yeah. Also, there is another question. This was from the participants from earlier. There is a training known as IPAS and SCORA. Is that funded?
For, you mean like participants pay a fee?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's still the fee. But then, for example, what we did with Making Her Story or like very like national initiatives is that they can waive the fee for participants, so they actually don't pay the actual price of it. So yeah, that's how it is at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Lalu. That was very helpful. Okay, so there comes another question. Can you tell, Carlos, if you want to take this question up, feel free. Can you tell us, that's nice. I really like asking questions. Can you tell us how SCORA is related to global health, and while being a SCORA angel, can we work on it?
Oh, wow. Yes, absolutely. Where do I start? Oh my God. No. Well, specifically, I can speak from my current position, like from my current job at Youth Coalition. Right now, in times of COVID, SRHR has been largely neglected by all of these like huge organizations, including the United Nations. We are like strongly advocating, let's say, for sexual and reproductive health as a whole. In various aspects. Right now, there are more and more countries. Well, I think that this situation has evidenced basically the health gaps that we have currently, like within sexual and reproductive health, and that accentuation, that highlighting of those gaps, have made many people to start investigating a little bit further into what is exactly sexual and reproductive health, how do governments respond to it. We've seen all the peaks, for example, in LGBT healthcare, the peaks within gender-based violence, and that is something that is currently trending. I would also say that now sexual and reproductive health in the global health perspective is changing, because now we are seeing a trending line of including new technologies within sexual and reproductive health. There are forums that are right now like trying to focus a little bit more on that and how digital health and mobile health like form sexual and reproductive rights. So I can only say that in the long run, SRHR will be each time more and more relevant. And although COVID is there, like there are still strong movements such as SCORA, such as many others that will not shut up because of this. So I definitely see a lot of good things coming down the road.
Thank you, Carlos. Do you want to add anything to that?
I would just add that there is no like health or global health without SRHR. Like you cannot kind of separate it at all. So yeah, like it's just super intersected and super integrated, and that's kind of the approach that we are trying to promote as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there comes another question. There are a lot of policy documents questions that I'm not supposed to ask the director. Of course, it's the liaison officer work, but here comes because I think people are interested in the external representation. There's another question. What is the practical importance of policy documents that IFMSA create from time to time?
Okay, practical. Yeah, it's not a document to have it just in the web page and have it there and forget about it. It's extremely relevant to have the IFMSA stance or position on a certain matter, because otherwise we couldn't, for example, go to specific meeting and say this, and that, because I, Lalu, think this is the way it should go. So that's the why of the policy document. So basically, that's why we amend it and we vote on it. So we make sure it's representing all of the different perspectives, and then that's when we can start advocacy on that specific topic. Carlos, if you want to add, I can also state examples.
I would also say that they're very useful, like when advocating in the external side. So when we generally attend like external events, for example, UN events, there is something that is like VNRs, that are like voluntary national reviews. So it's basically the documents that the stances that that countries have over a specific policy, and we generally use the policy statements or policy documents from the IFMSA to create policy briefs, or like a smaller version of that same document, and we use that to influence those national reviews, meaning we are influencing with the opinion and with the information that we gather. We do try to influence the final position of a specific country over a topic. So that is also like another practical use.
Yeah, also, should you be familiar or not with the structure, we have in this document the calls to action. So we call to action to different, what we call stakeholders. So you might call to governments, you might call to medical schools, you might call to healthcare students. So that's like specific actions that we would like them to do and to perform. So that's also something like super useful, because then you know more or less like how you should guide that work.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so okay, this is from a member from the core team who was doing this essay. They've been working for violation against women, because in Pakistan there is a lot of issues. Like there are a lot of violations. There are acid attacks. Then there are certain sort of things that are not seen anywhere in the world. So they want to do a project on that, and in the longer run, with the governments, they want to have a policy statement that can be later. They aim that if it can be adapted by the government. So what would your be say on that, or how would you say that what should be a basic approach while writing the policy statement, and like how was like does it go to the government, or where, or like the protocols?
I can start.
Yeah.
I was looking at the screen like, is Carlos going or not?
No, I can go. I can go later. Yeah, don't worry. Sorry. I didn't got that. Sorry.
It's fine. Okay, so first of all, yeah, I think it would be nice that IFMSA-Pakistan first has the stance on this specific matter and works on that in order to move it forward. So something that I used to do when I was working at the national and local level was taking a look at the policy documents that IFMSA has and then adapt it to your context. So this way you save some work that other people from the federation did. So I don't think we have something like very specific into acid attacks, but we do on gender-based violence, and these can be found in the IFMSA web page /policies. So you can find it there. Also, some things that some people in IFMSA that can help you with that as well, to just draft the overall process, is the program coordinator for gender-based violence. She's Shaima. She's from Egypt, and she's super hardworking and super helpful. So she can help you out on gathering resources or gathering the best way into how to work on that, as well as we have the liaison officer, who's Egle from Lithuania. She works on external representation, so she can also be contacted for those matters, as well as there's an external affairs international team that has a regional assistant. So this person can also be contacted and can help you out, just like know all the steps and guide you through all of it. So those are like some of the contacts that could actually be helpful. So I don't know who asked, but I'm more than willing to just have a conversation and send you all the details. So
It's Fatima.
So
Okay.
she
was looking, she was asking about it. So if it's okay, so she could contact you later on that with the team, and that would be very helpful. Oh, thanks. Carlos, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, well, I also encourage like IFMSA-Pakistan or anyone like in this call for that matter to also search for other partners that can like help you. So I also offer my help. If you wish to consult me on like any of the processes, I can also be of help. Right now, for example, there are many UN Women processes that are being open because we are right now in Beijing plus 25. So there's 25 years of the Declaration of Women from UN Women. So that is a very important landmark. And because of this landmark, we are seeing like that these organizations are being more friendly to youth, participating and having an opinion and raising voices about like the situation that women are having in their country. We are having, if all of you are interested, next week there is a call from UNFPA on body autonomy that is going to happen, so you're all invited to that. And yeah, I think there's also kind of like other partners, and I encourage you to seek other partners as well. Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, since we're heading towards the end of the call, the last question that is in everyone's mind. When I started IFMSA, this was in my mind too. As Lalo stated that she was a shy girl, I think that I was the most shy girl who joined IFMSA, and it totally turned me the other way. Most of the people, most of the people think the new members joining. Okay, so the new members over here, even, or most of the people joining IFMSA thinks that the people who are speaking like you here have a lot of knowledge on it, and that you have learned on it, and they cannot never reach your level. They have that in their mind. Even for me, I had this in my mind. Oh my God, that's like she's a shining star or he's a shining star. I can never reach that level, or how could I be there? So, what would you suggest to them, or what would your be, what you say, any point that you could tell them at the starting stage on how to take things and how to, approach things and how to see the things in the lighter way?
Should I go now? Do you want me to go? That is that is a very interesting question for me. When I was starting in IFMSA, I didn't have, there were not many Latino officials, like within the team of officials. So I think I had a moment where I like stood in that spot, like, how do I get there, or how do I project towards that environment or that position or that work, whatever. And I did face to SCORA, like in a community that embraced me and that I embraced, let's say, with all its opportunities, and that showed me that I didn't have, basically, like the reasons that I was having for not running or for not doing, like, were reasons that I had like within myself, and it was actually nothing about everyone else but myself. It was like a very self-developmental experience. I would definitely say, like, don't, I don't want to say don't fear, because fear comes eventually and it's totally normal and it's fine for you to embrace it. But always think that you deserve improvement, or you deserve to, get to that place that you want to be, or get to that goal that you want to reach. You might still don't know how to get there, and that is totally fine, because we are not knowledgeable about like any equations that perfectly match what we want. But that gives you motivation. I think that gives you motivation to explore different opportunities and yeah, eventually get there.
Thank you, Carlos. Yes, Lalo?
Yes, I will try. Okay, so as a fun fact as well, when as I told you how I got to know more about my local committee and how I started to organize activities and so on. So I got to learn. I got into SCORA basically because it was an empty position. So no one was actually in there, but I was already like previously involved into like feminist stuff. So it kind of fit me in that way. But we have this regulation that you can only hold the position for 2 years. And I thought, oh, then I can hold this position like local officer for 2 years, and then the 2 next years I can go into SCORP, into human rights, and I just do that, and I was fine with staying at the local level. So that was my mindset back then. And I mean, it just happened to be that way that the next year I became the NORA. And then I was national officer for 2 years, and I always say that I encourage everyone to do 2 terms of the same position, because you get to make the squeeze and make the most out of that, and you learn a lot. And after that, I wanted to I was familiar with IFMSA, and I thought I could contribute to the international team, and that's how I got into IFMSA. And then last year I had ideas, and I had let's say a vision on how I would like things to be done, and that's why I applied for the position. But as I told you, like my first mindset when I joined my national member organization was, oh my God, like I'm gonna do 2 years of this at the local level, and then I will shift into something else. And it didn't happen to be that way. So sometimes it just turns out to be like this. And yeah, I mean, I'm very happy on how the overall thing went. And it's true that you learn a lot, and that you see people that you feel they know more than you, and that you will never get there. But then I remember once, like someone asked me, like, how do you know all of that? Because I was facilitating a session on, I don't even remember the topic, but I think it was sexual orientation, gender identity related. And how do you know all of that? And I was like, yeah, I don't know how I got here. So I think it's made out of like bits of information. I also got to read a lot, but I was also very lucky to have many opportunities in Barcelona. So I was joining conferences or talks, and I would say that even from like interpersonal connections or people that I got to know through my association, I learned a lot from them. So you will like just gather a lot in your baggage, and I mean, you just get to learn from experience in a way.
Exactly.
I wanted to point out something. What I would tell to these people that's like, oh my God, how am I going to manage this and how am I going to manage that? If you ever get rejected, don't take it in a bad way. It might happen, and it's just something that we should, I would say, more okay with. It happens to everyone, and do not give up because of that. So you will always find a place or a starting point to work on the topics that you want to work. So do not ever feel discouraged because of that. So I really wanted to say this.
That's so nice. I'm loving this conversation on SCORA. This is my first time having a webinar. I'm truly loving it. Okay, so we have less time and I have two more questions. We have a lot of a talk about what's SCORA and what is the things, what do we do, but what would you both say, why SCORA?
Why are questions getting harder?
Yeah, I know. Like,
Because
I'm
you know
blushing
that
already. I'm like, wow. Like, we're like a drink call. Then,
Okay. Why SCORA? Because every single topic that we address, I mean, we are just trying to move forward towards the vision, which is a world where every single individual is empowered. So I really want to highlight the word empowered because I really like it. And I think it's very relevant to exercise your sexual and reproductive health and rights equally without fear of stigma or discrimination. So for me, those three sentences are the why. And why is it still relevant? Because if you actually watch the video that the guys didn't manage to play at the beginning, but I'm sure it's online, you have multiple reasons in there because it's like prevalent worldwide. Like there are many things to solve yet. So those are my whys. I cannot pick only one.
thank
I would
you.
also,
Kind of what are your whys?
yeah, I would also argue, well, one thing that we say is that, or at least in my time, we used to say that sexual reproductive health is the power to choose, and it's the power for you to kind of like redefine your life and redefine what does your independence mean exactly. And you, when you do that, you get to know that there are many things that are actually hindering your liberty, either of expression or either of who you love, who do you want to engage with, like what do you want to do with your body, what do you want to, I don't know, I want to go out there and dance and not be judged about it, or I want to, you know, and those, I think that kind of liberty and the kind of space is important for people. And I think why people to explore themselves at the same time that they explore how we interact with humanity, and hoping that out of that interaction we change the world.
Yeah. Okay, so this is not a hard question. This will be my last question as like we're approaching the end. So, what would you guys say to the members who have joined, and one word on how, we did put an effort in linking, the Greek gods and Percy Jackson theme to hold this webinar. So, what would you think the links are to the Aphrodite?
You said it wasn't going to be hard. That is not.
I knew it wasn't true. Like I was sure it
Yeah,
was
I was like, this is bluffing.
For people who joined us, I would just say that you are always welcomed into SCORA. So whenever you need a hand, just you need a safe space or you want to share whatever, feel free to just reach out. And as I said, like it's people like us behind the email, so you don't need to be formal, you don't need to be very worried. So that's one of the best things I think for us. So we are always here for you. About the gods, I don't know.
Okay. Anything you would say that,
I don't know about it.
I know, even I forgot about the poster, the how we linked with the Aphrodite, the traits of that with SCORA. But I think
I would say she was a very empowered woman, right?
Yes, I was gonna say. I was gonna say the oldest example of an empower women or women empowerment movement, like that would be Aphrodite. Yes.
so. Also, yeah, that was like goddess of pleasure, passion, fertility, beauty, love, and procreation. So I
Yeah.
think that goes and
Right,
fits so
yeah.
well with SCORA. I had to open the document to read it out. But yeah, so Carlos, any last words from your side or any feedback for the participants?
No, absolutely. Just very grateful and very humbled to be here with all of you. And thank you for inviting me once more. This definitely brings a lot of good memories from Lalu, from every amazing experience that I had while being in the standing committee. Again, the doors are open if you wish to like contact me at any time. Um, just to know more or to chat, like feel free to reach out. And yeah, thank you for the poetry, the Aphrodite, all the craziness. It's always part of SCORA, so that is absolutely great. And I wish you all the best, like in your careers, in your IFMSA life, in your emotional and mental health. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you guys for having such informative, lively, and full of fun session. We were thinking about how to have fun activities because webinars bore out, but I don't think anyone was bored throughout this time because of course there was such a high spirit. Lalo, of course, you laughing, and then Carlos, like you two bring together such a SCORA spirit that even for me, a diehard Scorpion, I just turned a little to SCORA. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. And this is for the participants who are here. I hope you learned. I hope this was helpful. This would also be live up on the platforms of IFMSA Pakistan, where you could reach out if you skipped anything. And as they said that. We have this in mind that the people who are, the directors or people at the higher post, they're unapproachable. But this is what IFMSA is. We're all students and we are all volunteers in this organization. And the people like these who are talking to you, they're easily approachable. So if you have any queries, not bombard them with queries, I would say. But yeah, if you have any legit queries that anyone couldn't answer, so there you go to person. I hope this webinar was informative for you, and I thank a lot for the two lovely lively speakers for joining us in IFMSA Pakistan on such a short notice and giving us a wonderful time. Thank you so much, guys. This is a bye from our side. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
And I would also like as an end note, I would also like to thank our audience for joining in to, know more about SCORA and, work and grow in that domain. And we would like to thank everyone who took out their time. So, and made this webinar a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just FYI, we forgot to play the video, but the link would be up, and the link is up on all the social media.
This is something that I was wondering as well. I was like, okay, but are we supposed to play a video? Why are we buying everyone? But then I was like, maybe it's off the plan now.
I thought that I was being, ending on time, so I forgot to play the video. But the link is up everywhere. You can go and see the video. We will share with you on the emails as well. So yeah, that's a real bye from my side now. Bye guys. Thank you.